So a lot of these topics and the way the president has responded to them has been criticized. His approval rating has decreased over the last couple of months. Can you tell the people of North Carolina that you support everything the president has been doing?
Well, I look at it this way. On a scale of 1 to 10, when it comes to style and delivery and perhaps how he says things, I'd probably rate it a 3 out of a 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best in terms of substance and what's actually taking place that the administration's pursuing, it's a 9 or a 10 out of 10. And so if you look at all the major achievements that we're making in terms of reforming the Veterans Administration, the bills that Congress has passed, that he's signed into law, the things that he's doing unilaterally under his authority as president in terms of executive orders and rules and regulations, peeling back the onerous regulatory environment in the country. That's one of the reasons why the stock market is doing well, and another reason I think why folks, particularly in the business community, are excited about the future again, because they know that for the first time in a long time, they don't have an administration that's beating them over the head. What's it going to be tomorrow? And so I think all of that has led to a very significant improvement in buoying of the market, and of course they're anticipating, I believe, tax reform as well. And so I think that's obviously a must-do as we move towards the end of the year. So if you look at his Supreme Court nomination and the confirmation of Neil Gorsuch, in my mind, that's you can't do any better than that. Supreme Court long term is really what matters, particularly if you're a conservative, if you're a social conservative in particular, and if you're a conservative that believes in a more limited government. Doesn't matter what the makeup of Congress is and who your president is, if the Supreme Court's going to wipe out everything that you do. And so the makeup of that court is incredibly important, and the president's going to have perhaps 2 or 3 more opportunities to help shape the court, for the future. So all those things, from the appointments to the court, to the regulatory reform that they're working on, reestablishing America's role and presence in the world, stepping to the plate back at the leadership table. I look at it this way: we live in a world of good and evil. America is the greatest force for good mankind has ever known. When we back away from the leadership table, from the world stage, evil fills that vacuum. And he has reasserted our leadership, has one of the greatest foreign policy teams that we've had in place in some time. You've got a cabinet where more than 50% of them are active participants in the Capitol Ministry's Bible study for cabinet members. Never had that kind of participation before. He has assembled a tremendous team around him that is enacting very, very good policy. These are people who really care about the future of the country, care about the American people. This is a president that really cares about our veterans, cares about our military, and all of that, I think, gets overshadowed by the things that the media chooses to focus on, and the president doesn't always help himself, obviously, in that regard. Which I say, that's why I rate him about a 3 out of a 10 on in terms of style, but in terms of substance, 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10.
But do you think the way he delivers his messages is part of being a leader, the ability to deliver it?
Sure, but I also think that you have to understand him from the standpoint of where he's from, the environment that he's always been in. New York is a very different place than many states in the country. And I can tell you from my experience in dealing with very successful people in New York, they talk differently, their language is different. It's just a different animal there. And so I think you have to understand him in context. I have always told folks, and I figured this out early on, take the president very, very seriously, but don't take him literally. And I picked that up on the campaign trail. Part of his success in business has been stating the outrageous in order to get to the center where he wants to be on a business deal. And everything in life, personal relationships, business, politics, you have to give a little bit. Everybody has to give a little bit in order to get an end result. And so I think a lot of the things and the way he says it is more of a negotiating style than actual actually intended to be literally taken.
So, are you running for reelection?
Well, you know, when you have a 2-year term, you're always running, I suppose, until you decide that you're not running. But yes, I certainly plan to seek election again. Of course, we just had the election in the fall, and it seems strange to even be talking about that. But when you have a 2-year term, that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah. So let's just talk about redistricting really quick. That's
Sure.
another topic in North Carolina. It's been pointed out that maybe they were drawn in favor of the Republican Party. What are your thoughts on redistricting and how they should be redrawn?
Well, you know, I look at it this way. You have states where they draw their districts for partisan advantage. And, you know, that's just the playing field that we are on nationally. No system is perfect. But one thing I have observed across the country is these states that adopt a nonpartisan panel or group to determine district lines, they're really not nonpartisan. In many respects, they're fairly liberal. And so they draw the lines, you know, according to what's going to advance, you know, their interest. I think the system that we have in North Carolina, where the legislature draws the line through their elected representatives, is probably the best way to do it. You know that when you go and vote for a state senator or state house member, you know, that's a part of their responsibilities to draw those lines.
Do you think they need to be redrawn at this point?
No, I don't think they need to be redrawn. Obviously, you had a court decision that required that the state of North Carolina redraw the state Senate and state House maps. The congressional maps obviously were redrawn based on a different lawsuit, but very similar one, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And keep in mind, we have the new census coming up in 2020. So in 2022, we're going to have probably at least one new congressional district, maybe 2 new congressional districts coming to North Carolina, and all the maps are going to be redrawn then anyway. So when you redraw them now, the poor voters are going to be terribly confused because in just a few years they're going to be all redrawn again.
Yeah.
But obviously, the court decision is a court decision, and so you'll see the state and Senate and House maps redrawn. I think they were just released the other day, and we'll see if the court upholds those districts and allows the legislature to move forward with them.